May you not be among people that make noise. Go and look for Jesus. I beheld this your city, and I saw a wilderness, a vast wilderness, and only few altars that had the color green. The other altars were brown, some were black. So, green means it's alive. Brown means it used to be here. Black means it's gone. And I saw congregations gathering around brown altars. I saw some others gathering, big congregation around three black altars. God was saying something used to be here. Please help me preach to your neighbor. If the servant of darkness is not yielded to Satan, you are not preaching. I say preach to your neighbor. If the servant of darkness is more yielded to Satan than you are yielded to God, then darkness will overcome light. Under such circumstances, darkness. Can you check out your nations? Is it reflective of your God? The tale, the paradox of our nations is suggestive of the fact that our light is not bright enough. I remember the other day, we were praying in our own territory that God should install a political leader that will align with righteousness. Okay? So, we were praying. And it was obvious that our prayers had a massive impact. Because the hearts of the people had turned away from the agent of darkness. And then this agent of darkness, when he checked the statistics, checked the fact that he's not likely to win, he turned to spiritual means. Sacrifice a newborn child. 24 hours before the election, a newborn child was sacrificed. The whole election stormed. There was confusion everywhere. At the end of the confusion, at the end of the thing, a man that was not ordained by God was crowned. The agent of darkness know what to do when there's a tightrope to overturn things. How much skill have you developed? Now, what can your prayer do? If you say, if they bring you on the scene in a certain situation, what can your prayer do? You know what is lacking? It's light. Light. Because when light goes to work, the measure of the Chaldeans and the sorcerers will be discovered to be way beneath the capacity of light. He was made master of the magicians. Okay. I have three things I need to drop with you, but maybe I'll just drop one because the burden on my heart is intense. Now listen, maybe we need to do Revelation chapter 19 verse 10 before I drop one point, after which we will pray as a congregation. What I'm teaching you this morning are my personal contemplations. There's a realm of light that I know that I've not been ushered into, that I desire desperately. And I will not stop seeking it until God has mercy on my poor soul and grants me access. There is a language you need to know. And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see that thou do it not. For I am thy fellow servant and thy brethren that have the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. He said, I'm one of your brethren that has received the testimony of Jesus. The splendor I'm manifesting, the light I have with which I'm unveiling the things I'm telling you, I have it because I received the testimony of Jesus. When I unveil the things that I received, you liken me to God. But you see, do not do it because I'm one of your fellow brethren. It's not that I've been upgraded. I have been elevated. Just like Daniel was elevated, that they saw deity in him. When you are elevated into the realm of light, they say this is the appearance of God. He wanted to, they say to calm down. I am not God. I'm one like you. But the difference between me and you is that I received what? The testimony of Jesus. I received the testimony of Jesus. The revelator stumbled into my domain. The revelation stumbled into my domain. You still remember in the book of John chapter 12 when Jesus said, I am the light of the world. If any man walketh after me, he shall not walk in darkness, but he shall have the light of life. Meaning that the life of God on your inside is capable of reflecting that light that God is. And if you receive that light that God is in your heart, Jesus said you will never walk in darkness. John, as powerful as John was, he wanted to go prostrate. He said, my true identity is that I'm one like you, but I have received what? The testimony. I told you, don't follow me, just stay. I've received the testimony of Jesus. Worship God. Then he gave us a definition of what the testimony of Jesus is. For the testimony of Jesus is a spiritual prophecy. The testimony of Jesus is the life of prophecy. The testimony of Jesus is the substance of prophecy. The testimony of Jesus, hearing Jesus speak, is the essence of prophecy. It's the life source of prophecy. When you hear a man prophesy, the substance, what generated those utterances, is the testimony of Jesus. I was in prayer, just all by myself, just praying for my city, praying for my location. And when I persisted in the prayer for a few days, the hand of God came into the room and I was knocked off. I fell under the intense presence of God that has formed in that place. And when I fell under the intense presence of God, the Lord took my spirit and we went into the past. Then I saw men that God had previously raised to bear witness of his name and his resurrection in my city. These men that God raises, there is something that he gives them. And the moment he gives them that thing, they start becoming prominent. Their voice is heard. People's hearts turn to them. Now you might think, the reason why people hear you is because you are on social media. There's a bishop in my city. He's also on social media. Gets like 5 views, 7 views, 10 views. So he's so angry at me. The reason why he's angry at me is he believes that I'm the one that obscured the room. Social media is like the sky, for God's sake. Now, I don't know, it's once in my lifetime when we were airborne that I saw another plane. Once, just once. And where was that? In the US. Yes. Have you ever seen any plane? Maybe you sit by the window seat. Have you ever seen any plane by the... I say, hey, how are you? Only once. And I tell you, I have really been airborne. So if there's anything there, I should have seen it. It's once in my flight time. I looked through my window and saw another plane. And the reason why it was so is because in their own airports, they have different runways, not like this, our standard gauge. They have different runways. So as you are coming in, somebody is going out, and the other, in fact, 4 or 5 planes can land at the same time. So that's why I saw the sky is so vast. The fact that you are flying, you have not done it. The next one that wants to fly has enough room. He thought that if he stays on social media, there's a platform to talk, that human beings will hear him. He doesn't know that what makes people hear you is that Jesus gives you something. Jesus. So I saw these preachers. Jesus will give him something. Then he starts becoming influential. Start becoming influential. So the real thing God gives you, that we human beings interpret as blessing, is influence. That's the real thing he gives you. He gives you influence. That's what he gives you. It is through that influence that so many things happen. But the real thing he gives you is influence. And that influence is tied to a spiritual deposit. The moment he removes that deposit, the influence will wane. Even if you are so smart that you build an administration around the influence, which many people have been trained to do. So that even if God is not there, they can still have something strapped. They can have people in a charismatic zoo. But God is no longer there. They come and feed them rations. The tigers will jump. But God has left. But the people were smart enough to set up an administration. At some point, the God that is in the system is the administration, because God has left. When God leaves, influence will begin to wane. You will need human methods to keep things going. And when you begin to use human methods to keep things going, Satan will propose himself to become the head of the synagogue. He will take the place of God, because God has left. Everything is still going on, but the source has changed. And that's why Paul had to tell us where his source was from. The ek has changed. The origin has changed. So God put that influence on that preacher, one preacher. Name will tell, because most of you are from that place. So if I start mentioning names, you will know what. And then when you know the name, you are no longer listening to the message. You are analyzing the person. So this preacher grew. He expanded. The city began to gather to him. He died. When he died, 12 years later, Jesus took the same thing, put on another man. This man that died was a man that was the original man trained for that role. But because of a little carelessness, he was exposed at some point and he was cut down. The second man that they gave after 12 years was not prepared for the role, didn't know there was any role like that. But because Jesus wanted to hold sway in the land, this guy is not prepared. They gave him. When they gave him, he started becoming influential. People believed him. People began to gather around him. And because he was not prepared for the role, he thought he was the one that was the star. He used to boast. Big guy. When I went there, I saw the lady that was his secretary. I knew he had died because we went to the same campus with that lady, the same university with that lady. So in this boasting that he was boasting, he couldn't see this lady. Oh, I pity. That was the last time I visited the place. I knew that he was dead. I knew he was dead. The next time I saw him, he was so sick that I don't want to describe what he died. He died a shameful death. Then the mantle was given to somebody else that was not ready. Young people began to gather to him. Young people began to gather. Something began to take place. The moment you are giving that mantle, there is a demon. A demon, how will I describe this demon? It is standing erect, but it has the shell of a tortoise. That demon will come. The first thing the demon will do is that if there are people that are praying for you, somebody that is committed to praying for you, it will disconnect you from that person. And I don't want to mention names. I would have shown you the pattern from the first one, because that's what Jesus showed me in this encounter. From the first one to the second one, the same pattern. When that prayer support is withdrawn, you begin to lose your life of holiness. And just like that lady on our campus struck this man, you become interested to people that will destroy, that are destructive, that Satan had trained in the art of destruction. And then Jesus told me, we will give you this thing. But you have 8 years to prepare. Within these 8 years, meanwhile, and that's a privilege. I'm not a good person. I don't even know why Jesus decided to choose me. Because I'm not as strong as any one of these people. So in terms of strength, I don't have it. He said, we will give you this thing, but we'll give you in 8 years' time. Do you know that the noisiest season of that city was that 8 years? So many noisemakers rose, and I knew from the revelation of Jesus that none of them had anything. May you not be among people that make noise. Go and look for Jesus. I beheld this your city, and I saw a wilderness, a vast wilderness, and only few altars that had the color green. The other altars were brown, some were black. Some, green means it's alive. Brown means it used to be here. Black means it's gone. And I saw congregations gathering around brown altars. I saw some others gathering, big congregation around three black altars. God was saying something used to be here. Sustained by administration. Those 8 years were loud years. People were I say if you do well, it was not as if the promise was unconditional. He said if you do well, because I know the original person that was meant for the mantle, that one was trained for it. None of us was trained for it. So he said if you do well, I will test you with this. In 2019, in August, on the 19th day of August 2019, that was where the shofar was blown in heaven, announcing my own rising. The shofar was blown on the 19th of August 2019, but the season, we began to experience the season in March 2020. And anytime there was something maybe great that happened and I wanted to celebrate, he would say, if you behave well. Do you know that statement? He was just trying to make me understand that, you see, this thing is conditional. You were not the one that was originally designed for this. So if you behave well, if you behave well, if you behave well. The 8 years that I spoke about, I'm trying to bring perspective about. In these 8 years, before these 8 years, 2 years before these 8 years, okay, I was somewhere in the Middle East and the Lord appeared to me. That was when he said, the youth. He said, use your power of insight to deliver them from destruction, and I will open the gates of nations to you. So when I came back from that trip, I started going from campus to campus. People were saying I was a campus apostle. They were using that to mock me, but it was Jesus that commissioned me to do that. I was in Lagos. When you are going to preach in Sokoto, you need 2 flights from Lagos to Abuja, from Abuja to Sokoto. The guys you are going to preach to on campus don't have money to even pay for my ticket. But I was obedient to Jesus. So for 12 years, I was hopping from campus to campus because Jesus said I should do that. When I was checking how I moved, I went around Nigeria 6 times in 12 years. It was after those days that the shofar was sounded. And I was given the opportunity to step into the next phase. Then that thing began to work. I had to go and study all the people that carried it before me. Why was there a challenge? God will not tell you everything. If you are willing to stay afloat, you will take responsibility for your navigation. When I discovered what was wrong, I adjusted my life. The adjustment took me how many years? The adjustment in terms of prayer, the adjustment in terms of fasting, the adjustment in terms of sacrificial giving. Do you know what? I found out that sacrificial giving is a big thing in the kingdom of God. Make yourself a sacrificial giver. After 10 years, compare notes with casual resistance. Sacrificial. 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 The ability to lay it down. The power. Takes a lot of strength to do that. Sacrificial. Sacrificial. And when people see that you are such a person, they will cash in on it. Those people that are laboring to receive from you have signed that they will never be great. You know, they think they are wise. He has an open heart. So I just plug in, then you cash out. You plug, you cash out. You cash out. In 10 years' time. Give them if you have. Give them. Those ones will never give. You see, it's not the man that has that gives. It's the giver that gives. It's a giver that gives. If a man has not yet given for 10 years, he doesn't know the power of giving. If you have not prayed for 10 years consistently, you don't know the power of prayer. If you have not fasted for 10 years consistently, you don't know the power of fasting. You are just moving around the sidelines. You are a statistic that will be, it's okay, you are number 4, you're 5. You are a statistic. The revelation of Jesus that you have is going to shape your life. It will affect your outlook to life. Took me years to adjust in the area of the mistakes I saw. That was why I stayed in that wilderness. I saw big cities like this. Saw big cities like Lagos. I remained in that wilderness. Once upon a time, the senior ministers of my city significant ones came to me and said, "You are wasting here. Move out of this place. You will end up like us." My heart shook. I went back to Jesus. That was not what Jesus was saying. So even people with their good intentions have the ability to sway you from the path. May our civilization go beyond good intentions. The 8 years were silent for me, but noisy in my city. But God was not doing anything in my city for that time. When the shofar was blown on the 19th of August, 2019, approval was given for me to be granted the opportunity. And when the thing came, it generated influence, started coming. I remember one day we're in my sitting room just praying. I've never had that experience before, and I've not had it till today. We're just praying in my sitting room, just praying, praying. And suddenly, my eyes open. I saw an angel of God. He walked straight to me. He touched me on the chest. And my spirit went with him. I was still physically standing, but I was seeing where we were going. Took me to a place in my city and asked me, "Do you know where we are?" I said, "No." "Where is this?" He mentioned my city. I said, "No, we are not in my city." Because I know my city very well. He didn't answer me anymore. Then he took one stick. The place was unswept, unkept, and dry leaves filled everywhere. Took one stick, opened one area. You know, I've worked in the oil industry for 16 years. If because of that, if I see crude oil, even in my dream, I know it. So he took the stick, opened somewhere there, then I saw it was crude oil. He told me, this crude oil is the resources that we put in place for this man. The man he was pointing at was the last man that they gave that thing. But the man was not obedient enough to spend from it. He said, I brought you here because you begin to spend from it now. That was how we built that building. When God decides to focus on you, what He gives, what His presence will do to you is that it will bring influence around your life. That influence will produce so many things, but the real thing is influence. That was where the story changed. That was where everything changed. People have come to me and asked me for formulas. What buttons did you press? What are the things? I couldn't tell them. It's not in formulas. There's something beyond formulas. I don't know how to explain what I'm saying. I have release in my spirit. That's why I'm saying this. It's not by formula. Continue what you are doing. Faithfully. It's not as if our methods were contemporary or our style was recommended. We maintained our crude shape. It was not about your shape. It's about the thing that was committed.
Hello, thanks for watching. I believed you've been blessed. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.